Hi, I'm Dr. Mindy Patterson, the founder and CEO of Renutrim, and today I will discuss shocking blood sugar research that changes everything. You probably have heard about the glycemic index diet and that you should follow a low glycemic index diet, but today I'm going to discuss the original publication where all of these values come from that may make you rethink the glycemic index and newer ways in which you can actually add carbohydrates in your diet that are high quality. Hey, so today I will talk about what exactly is the glycemic index. Is it reliable, and should you trust those values? And should you be following a low GI diet? This presentation does not include AI in any form or fashion because I am not sure it can translate the science correctly. So this is my voice, my opinion, and my words. What is the glycemic index? It's actually how much your blood glucose rises after you eat a single food in a specific amount. And usually it's about 50 grams. And it's measured over a 2-hour period. So the test food, which is the test food in which you're trying to understand the GI value or glycemic index, which I may refer to as GI throughout the presentation. And it will be compared to either glucose or white bread in the same amount. Glucose and white bread are known to have a very high glycemic index, a value of 100, which is the maximum. So the test food will be compared against either glucose or white bread. And it's one single food. And I want you to think about this throughout the presentation. How often do you eat a single food in a setting? Typically, we eat foods, multiple foods in a meal or a setting. And so the addition of foods, which are going to have carbohydrates, protein, fat, fiber, those are all going to impact the glycemic index. So the GI is really just based on one food. It's also measuring your blood glucose over a 2-hour period. So you can see here in the graph that blood glucose levels are going to increase very high, and that's going to give a high GI value or high GI food. And then lower GI foods or values will have a lower glucose response over a 2-hour period. So if you think about the values of glycemic index, a low GI food is going to be less than 55. A medium is going to be 56 to 69, and then a high GI food is going to have a value of over 70, where 100 is going to be the value of the white bread or glucose. So how is it measured? Hey, this is from the original publication in 1981 by David Jenkins, and he's still publishing information about the glycemic index. And a lot of the values are still the same from 1981, 43 years ago, mind you. Food has changed drastically, so keep that in mind as well. But this is how the glycemic index is measured on day 1. The individual comes in, they get their fasting blood glucose measured via a finger stick. Then they will ingest either 50 grams of glucose or white bread. And then after they're finished eating, they will have additional blood collected every 15 to 30 minutes over a 2-hour period. Then the next day, they're going to come in and consume the test food. Again, they're going to have fasting blood glucose checked. They're going to consume, in this example, I'm using beans. So 50 grams, the same amount as the glucose or white bread. They're going to eat the beans, and glucose is going to be checked via finger stick every 15 to 30 minutes over 2 hours. Okay. The original 1981 study used healthy subjects. They all had a normal body weight and a normal BMI. They were around 29 years of age, and only about 5 to 8 subjects were tested for each food. So, think about the population today, you yourself. Are you healthy? I really hope that you are. Eat a healthy diet and exercise and have just good overall well-being and lifestyle. Do you have a normal body weight? Are you around 29, 30 years old? And with the small amount of subjects tested, then it really doesn't allow for extrapolation of the data to a larger population. From this 1981 publication, this is the glycemic index that they published for breakfast cereals. All bran had a GI of 51, which was low. Cornflakes, a high GI value of 80. Oatmeal was low at 49. And shredded wheat was a high GI value, actually it's moderate GI value at 67. And note, only 6 subjects were tested for each food. And I just did a quick 2024 Google search, and cornflakes still have a GI value of about 83. And so that's quite comparable to the 80 that was originally published. And shredded wheat has a GI value of 67, which is the same value that was published in the 80s. So not much has changed. So one thing that I want you to consider is there are extreme GI values within the same food. And here I'm showing you several donuts. And you look at the donuts, and some have additional icing, some have sprinkles, some have white chocolate, or some kind of chocolate sliver on top. That is going to impact the GI, right? If you have added sugar, then you're going to probably have an increase in the GI value. But the values are actually published in such a way that they lump these donuts into one category. So it doesn't really decipher between the different types of donuts that you may consume. A publication that's really an update of the GI values in 2021 still found a very wide variation in GI values within the same food category. If you look at the bakery products here on the left, they sampled 72. And now bakery products can mean anything, right? It can be, I guess I'm assuming they didn't really specify cakes, cookies, any kind of confectionery type of product. They tested 72, and the average GI value was 58. So almost low, but in that medium category. But if you look, almost 50% were classified as having a low GI value, and the other 50% was classified as having either a medium or a high GI. So you've got that wide variation. If you look at the bottom, let's look at potatoes and potato products. Products meaning chips, French fries, things like that. And the average value of 66 samples was 71. And if you look, 58% of these potatoes and potato products scored in the high GI value category. But then you have the remaining, which were classified as either medium or low GI. And you always hear about potatoes having the highest GI value of any food, but in reality, that's not really the case. Okay, so variety is going to impact GI value, the cooking and storing methods, which is going to alter the amount of available carbohydrates. So if you cook a food, it opens up that starch granule and allows it to become more available for digestion. If you take a starchy food, which all of these are starchy foods, and you cook it and chill it, it causes some of that starch to be compact. It's actually called retrogradation. And this retrogradation, which is known as resistant starch, resists the digestive enzymes, so you don't produce glucose in the small intestine. Therefore, it goes into the large intestine and the gut microbes are able to feed off of it. So it has a positive gut health component. So what I'm saying here is if you cook a starchy food, it's going to have more available carbohydrate versus a cooked then chilled starchy food where the available carbohydrate is going to be reduced. Fiber is going to impact the GI value, and like I said, diverse products are found within a food category, so they're lumped into one big category, and so it's hard to know exactly the GI value for each food within the category. We also have regional variation. So we have 3 products here, starchy foods. One is rice, one is potatoes, and one is breads. The GI value is on the x-axis and goes from 0 to 120. And then if you look at the bottom, we're going across time along the x-axis. So we are within 5-year intervals. We're deciphering the amount of glycemic index or the value of glycemic index within these 3 types of foods. And it's across 5 out of the 7 continents. So we've got Africa, Asia, Australia, Europe, and North America, and each dot stands for a particular continent. Okay, so let's look at breads. We have a huge variety of breads that were sampled across all of the continents, and the spread goes from about, looks like 20 to 30, all the way up to almost 100. So each region will have variation in the glycemic index of their foods. Okay, so for rice, the GI range between 19 and 116, potatoes range between 35 and 103, and breads range between 24 and 100. So huge variation across time and across region. So now thinking about what I have just expressed, do you think you should follow a low GI diet? So things to think about: are you 29 years old? Are you healthy? Do you have a healthy weight? Does the sourdough bread that you eat from Europe, does it have the same GI value as sourdough bread that was made in the United States? Probably not. Okay, so this is the first of several videos. The first talks about just the different variation across foods in GI values and how it was actually discovered. And the next videos will contain additional information. Does everybody have the same GI response to foods? Do low GI diets, are they good to follow? What if you have prediabetes? And then current and future methods used when selecting which GI foods you really should be eating. But for now, please subscribe to my YouTube channel for science-backed nutrition content. I am a nutrition expert and researcher and have been for over 10, almost 20 years. So if you have any questions, please email me at info@renutrin.co, that's C-O. And you can also sign up for pre-launch sales of my dual-acting Renutrin prebiotic supplement. that contains a starch blocker and a prebiotic fiber. We're launching probably in about a month. And so please sign up for pre-launch sale incentives and get on our waiting list so you can be one of the first to use this dual acting prebiotic supplement. And mind you, I've already had case studies. So I've had people try my supplement as samples, and we're getting about a 20 to 30% reduction in post-meal glucose with Renutrient's supplement. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.